Okay, this is question number 18 from 10.7. This is off of the homework, and in this question they're asking you to find the center and the radius of a circle whose equation looks like this. So x squared plus y squared plus 4x plus 12y equals negative 15. They're also asking us to graph it, which we can do at the end. But once you have the center and the radius, the graphing probably is a little bit less challenging. So let's focus on that piece of things first. So to find the center and the radius, what you're looking for with every one of these circles is you're looking for something that looks like this. And you're going to have parentheses x, and then there's some number here, and then y, and there's some number here. And it can either be a plus or a minus sign. We don't know which right away. And then the radius is going to be squared. So it's always going to take this format. That's the standard form for a circle. And it's just kind of one of those things within mathematics that is an expectation that you have standard form for a circle nailed down. This equation is not written in that format. In fact, it's missing, or not missing, but you have to do some work to get the pieces that you need. The way I think about these, it's my way of thinking about it's a little less traditional than the way it might get presented in a textbook. So I'll walk it through and just kind of show you how I look at it. So what I'm going to do, and there's a big space here intentionally. So I'm going to write x squared plus 4x. That is this piece and this piece. And they both have pluses. And then y squared and 12y also both have pluses. And I'm going to leave a big space and then equals negative 15. So I haven't changed the equation. I just rearranged it. So I grouped the things with x's near each other, the things with y's near each other. And then I left this big space. And the reason I do that is because I know I need to see something here. I need to see a number. Whatever that number ends up being is what allows me to do the grouping. So, and then there's this plus sign in between. I'm actually going to try to grab a few different colors. So there's that plus sign. That one's right here. So that plus sign is right there. And that might seem like a little deal that I'm doing with that plus sign, but students I've seen over the years, it helps them kind of grab hold of what it is we're doing. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to recreate this standard form. And notice there's this little plus sign in between. And that's where that comes from. That's that plus sign in front of the y squared. But then we have these things in parentheses with a squared on them, and we can't just like for fun put that there. We have to actually come up with something that generates it. In order to do that, or in order to make it look like this, I'm going to step back. So I'm going to put this in a big box and say, okay, I want it to look like that. But to get there, what I need to do, and I'm going to go ahead and rewrite what I had. So there's that first pair of things. Here's the second pair of things. And then here's my negative 15. I need to come up with a numeric value. So I need to come up with some number, and let's see, I'll go back to black. Some number that when I place it right here, that it is going to what's called complete the square. And that's just a fancy mathematical way of saying, let's get something that's a perfect square, something that can be foiled perfectly. In other words, the thing I'm looking for is an x, a plus, and then whatever number shows up right here and right here, it needs to be the same in order for us to square it. So for this squared thing to pop up, I need a mirror image, or these two things have to match. They have to be the exact same thing. So I could try a number like 1 and 1. If I did 1 and 1, and I were to FOIL that out, so let's say I put a 1 there and a 1 there, and I FOILed that out, I would have x squared, I would have plus 1x, and 1x and 1x are only going to give me 2x. I need to come up with a pair of numbers that gives me 4x. So I would suggest using kind of an educated guess and check. And in all honesty, the books tend to set you up so you don't have to look that hard. So let's try 2. If I do 2, so there's a 2 there and a 2 there instead of a 1. Now I do my first arc, I get x squared. I do my second arc, I get 2x. Third arc, I get 2x. 2x and 2x add together to give me 4x. So I need the 2's right there. In other words, when I do this, it's going to have x plus 2 in there. Because x plus 2 times x plus 2 is the perfect square that generates a 4x in the middle. And then I think, okay, well, what's 2 times 2, that very last arc? Well, 2 times 2 is 4. So the number I'm actually adding in, or I'm putting on the left-hand side of this equation, is a plus 4. And the tricky part with this is whatever you do on the left-hand side of an equation to keep an equation balanced, you have to do on the right-hand side. So I'm also going to write a plus 4 over here. I'm now going to repeat this same process, but with the y. So again, with my parentheses, what I'm looking for is a y and a y, a plus and a plus. And then I need some number that I can put right here. And whatever that number is when I put it there, and I combine those two middle terms when I FOIL things out, I need to get 12y. So we already know 2 and 2 gets us 4 in the middle, so it's got to be a number bigger than 2. Okay, so let's try 3. If I do 3 and I do my arcs, I'm going to get y squared. That's always going to be the first arc. Then I'm going to get 3y and 3y. And again, when you FOIL, those two middle terms, if you're using the same number, are always going to be exactly the same. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So that would be what I would get. And if I had a 6y right here, 3 plus 3 is 6, but I don't have 6. I have 12. So I need two numbers right here that match and add to 12. And instead of continuing to go through one by one, let's just think it through out loud. Two numbers that match and add to give you 12. Those two numbers that match and add to give you 12 would not be 3. Instead, they're going to be 6. 6 and 6. If I do that arc now, I've got y squared, 6y, 6y. And again, those two middle terms, when you FOIL, if your numbers are all the same, they have to match. And then 6 and 6 is 36 when I do my last arc. 6 plus 6 is the 12. The y squared is there, and then the plus 36 is right here. So again, what I'm trying to do is create what's called a perfect square, and I'm having to think through, well, what number would I need to be using to generate a 12 in the middle? And again, it's not like I can choose any two numbers. They have to match. It has to be 2 and 2, or 6 and 6, or 1 and 1. You're always looking for the exact same numeric value. And the book tends to give us pretty nice values to be looking at. So I added the 4 to the left side, and I had to add it to the right, add the 36 to the left side, have to add it to the right. And that means what I've got then is something that looks like this. So I've got x plus 2 squared, that's here. I've got y plus 6 squared, that's here, equals, and then on the other side, I no longer have a negative 15. I now have negative 15 plus 4 plus 36. Well, 4 and 36, that's a positive 40. Negative 15 and positive 40 is a 25. And if I clean that up a little bit, and I can probably write it a little bit smaller, I've got x plus 2 squared, y plus 6 squared equals 5 squared, which is 25 is 5 squared. That then is my format for the circle, and it's completing the square. It's doing it in a very non-formulaic way, and you can almost think of it as like an educated guess and check as to what number needs to show up right here and what number needs to show up right here to make a perfect square happen. And really the magic is it's just the number that when you add it to itself gets you what's in the middle. So 2 plus 2 is 4, 6 plus 6 is 12. And then you say, well, what would happen when I multiply those? I get a 4 and I get a 36. I'm adding that on the left, so I have to add it on the right. And then I can write it in what's called standard form. So here is my standard form. So what that means is once you have it there, the standard form is saying, okay, it's x minus a particular number. So x, I think the book tends to use h and k's, x minus h squared. And I apologize for that. My screen just hopped around and the recording cut out. But so again, the screen just cut out and the recording kind of cut off there right at the end. But what we were doing is establishing where the center of this thing is. And if we're just matching it to a standard form of a circle, again, I'm not sure what I must have hit up here that did that, but whatever I did, I apologize. There's my center, -2, -6, and then my radius is a 5. So I've got my two pieces, and then once you have your two pieces, if you need to graph that, you're just going to pop that thing -2, -6 as the center, and you're going to go 5 units away and just do your best to trace out a circle. And the way I think about that, I can even do that down here is I say, okay, -2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my center. I need to go 5 up, and I need to go 5 down. I need to go 5 left, and I need to go 5 to the right. And then I'm going to draw my circle through those 4. And it's not beautiful, and that's probably not best, that's not the best circle I've ever drawn, but you get the idea. It's centered down here at -2, -6, and it goes 5 in every direction. That would be how you would graph that circle.